In this lesson, I'm going to cover the various types of auditing that's available in your Windows Server environment. On every Windows machine, there is a local policy, and I open this by just running gpedit.msc. And this opens this local group policy editor. So these are policies I can define locally on a machine. By default, there are a number of policies, but only one of them is enabled, Audit Logon Events, and it's actually set to success. So when there is a successful logon event, it will capture that. But there are also other types of logon event. I can audit directory service access to my Active Directory, account management activities, so someone has changed something about an account logon events from the Active Directory, any kind of object access. This could be a file, a registry key, a printer, anything that has some kind of access control list, a change to policy, using privileged permissions, tracking on processes, and various types of system event. These are all the different types of auditing I can enable or disable. And for many of them, do I want to audit when it's successful or when it failed? So for example, if you think about the logon events, this logs an event at a successful logon so I can track logons. This is actually very useful because some products will actually try and detect, well, what is a user's primary machine? And they may do this by the number of logons. These logon events are all written to the security event log. So I can see here all the different types of logon and log off events. So it's not just logging on, it's anything related to that logon experience. So I can see when they logged on, when they logged off, any kind of special privileges related to that logon. So I'm showing you this at a local machine level, but also these are defined in group policy objects configured for the domain. And what I've got open here is the default domain policy. And for the default domain policy, it actually sets that audit logon events to successful, which is why when I was looking at that same policy on the local machine over here, you notice it's actually grayed out because I'm being overridden by my domain policy. But I could change this. I may also want to log failures. So I'll click apply. This may help me, for example, intrusion detection. Let me know when a logon fails. So then if on this machine I updated my group policy, and I'm going to have to log out, but it will then start logging failed logon attempts. After that logon, notice if I now look at my local policy of that machine, it's now showing me it's set to success and failure. It's being set by the domain policy. If I now try a failed logon, I should actually see that failed logon. So I'm actually going to try and reconnect to this box directly from the Hyper-V server. And I'll actually type an incorrect credential. So I can just go to the console. I'll send a logon and I'll type it wrong. So again, this would be useful for that intrusion type detection. So I'll close that now. If I go back to that box, and I go back to the event viewer, and I look in my Windows logs, security, I now see an audit failure. I see that someone tried to log on and that actually failed. So it's giving me that information so I could then collect these logs and track, hey, maybe there's intrusion detections. I may want similar types of auditing for files. So for example, if I go to my object access, a file is an object, I might say audit success attempts to access a file. So maybe I have sensitive data and I want to actually track, well, when is someone accessing that sensitive asset? I might want to know when people again are trying to access data maybe they don't have permissions to. So I can turn on these policies. Because it isn't set at a domain level, I can set whatever I want locally. The next task would be to actually enable auditing on that particular file. So for example, here, I might create a new folder, test, and I'll create a file in this folder. If I right click on this and select properties, if I go to my security and advanced, here I can actually configure what type of auditing I want. So just by turning on the auditing policy, it doesn't actually do anything. What it enables you to do is now audit particular objects, and that would be tracked. So I could say, select a principal. So I might just say everyone. So I want to track everyone accessing this asset. And I might say audit all. So success, failures, everything. and I say, okay, apply. So it should actually log events when I try and access this file. So double click, test, save. So I accessed that object. So now in the event log, I'm actually getting lots of other types because I've turned on the auditing. But what I will see in here on the file system, I can see Notepad launched. And I accessed a file. So there's that test.txt. So I'm now logging that, although success. But again, you can see I've actually got some other types of tracking because I've turned on object access. I can now see things through the filtering platform that's logging things against the firewall. So there's certain types of packets trying to come in that are actually being blocked. So that might actually be interesting information. But now I can go and turn that back off. I don't want to audit those types of events. So that's really a very quick overview of the types of auditing that can be performed. But essentially every single aspect of the operating system you can audit. And so I'm enabling that high level, yes, I want to audit object access or privilege use or process tracking. And then often I can go and then granularly say, well, which types of object? Be very careful about turning on too much auditing. Obviously, it has an effect on the system in terms of processing that. And also your event logs will get very, very big, very, very fast. So if you are going to audit a lot of information, you may want to set a large event log size, and you need to control, is it allowed to overwrite as needed? So basically circular logging. Or if you are logging important security events, you'll actually have to say do not overwrite events, clear manually. But do remember, if you don't have a process in place, the system will actually start stopping functioning because it can no longer log correctly. So the more auditing you turn on, make sure you have policies in place to grab these logs, check them, clear it out, or set very large log files. This concludes the lesson on auditing.